Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Bad Luck Gamer, and we're back with another Pathfinder Bites, where I try to tell you how to play one of the classes in under 10 minutes. And today we're talking about the Magus. So, what is a Magus? Well, the Magus is the premier fusion class between spellcasters and martials, predominantly more of a fighter wizard kind of fusion class. And, this kind of harkens back to the Pathfinder First Edition days, where they had many classes that were kind of just fusion classes between one class and another class. The Magus is pretty much just like that. With the ability to strike or cast spells in equal measure, the Magus is a really good class to mix in spellcasting with how you do your combat normally. Now, it does have some issues with this, which we'll get to in a little bit, but overall, it does provide it with a sheer amount of flexibility that other martial characters just don't have, and an amount of sturdiness that most spellcasters don't have. They also are a class that blends together strikes with spells. They have their major feature, Spell Strike, which allows them to essentially put a spell into their strike and, well, go to town with it. Now, they do have a variety of other ways that they can kind of blend in spell casting with a variety of focus spells as well, but the biggest feature overall is just a Magus's main feature is to use a martial strike and a spell in the same round and have some kind of efficiency around doing that, which is very good, though it does make them a bit action heavy, which I'll talk about here in a moment. So now that we talked about what a Magus is, what makes the Magus the Magus? Well, I did say before that they're a fusion class between martials and spellcasters, and it is true in their proficiencies. The Magus gets a master proficiency in their weapon like any other martials do, and they are proficient in simple and martial weapons, but they also are the only class to get a master proficiency in their spell casting as well. And this, in the Magus's case, it is arcane spells because they are a wizard fighter hybrid. That is absolutely huge, and without multi-class archetyping, no other class can get those two proficiencies. I also think they get master proficiency in the armor they're wearing as well, meaning, and it's up to medium armor, I believe, which makes them really durable. Not only that, but they have more HP than a standard caster does, 8 per level, which is not as high as most of the other martials, but it's definitely better than most of the spellcasters. So overall, what makes the Magus is their actual proficiencies. But I couldn't say a Magus is a Magus without talking about Spell Strike. Spell Strike allows them to put any spell that has an attack roll into a strike. It's a 2 action, and it's a unique action. It is not casting a spell or striking. It is a unique Spell Strike action. Now, cast a spell is a part of the action, but it can't be used with things like meta magic because meta magic must precede a spell strike, or a spell that you use. So you can't fuse it with spells, and it's not just a strike that you can attach to any kind of strike like an overpower. It's you strike an enemy, well, you cast a spell first, which does provoke attacks of opportunity, so keep that in mind. Not that it's very common, but that does still happen. And then you strike an enemy with your weapon, and the accuracy of the spell is based on the accuracy of the strike. So if you critically strike, or if you critically hit with the strike, you actually critically hit with the spell as well. And if you get the feat Expansive Spell Strike, it doesn't have to be just a spell that has an attack roll. It can also just be a spell that imposes a save on the enemy. For instance, the Fear spell is a really good one, as you could put fear into your weapon, and then you strike, and if the weapon hits, the enemy needs to make a will save or become frightened due to the fear spell. And Expansive Spell Strike is essentially like a mandatory pickup for the Magus, as well, it much more expands the number of spells that you can spell strike with. Another part of the Magus and what makes the Magus are the hybrid studies, because the hybrid studies are kind of like a subclass feature that allows you to essentially pick your style of Magus, and they all kind of lean towards the use of specific types of weapons or fighting styles. Inexorable Iron, for instance, focuses on the use of two-handed weapons. It doesn't matter what two-handed weapon it is, as long as you're wielding a weapon in two hands, you get the benefits of the stances, or of the Hybrid Studies Arcane Cascade stance, which is a unique stance to Magus's that gives you extra abilities when you're in it. And for Inexorable Iron, it gives you temp HP as long as you're wielding a weapon with 2 hands while you're fighting. And in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, if you didn't know, if you have a spell that has somatic components, your hands can still hold an object while using those somatic components as long as you're not restrained. So as long as you're not restrained, it doesn't matter if your hands are full, you can still use somatic components, which is really good for Inexorable Iron. Laughing Shadow is the duelist slash like backstabber style. So when you go into Arcane Cascade and for Laughing Shadow, you get the ability, you get a status bonus to your speed, and actually increases if you're not wearing armor. And if you have a free hand, so you're wielding a one-handed weapon or an unarmed strike, and you strike an enemy who's flat-footed, the stance also does additional damage to the enemy. Not only that, but unlike Inexorable Iron, which has some focus spells that are not very much like stance defining, more or less, Laughing Shadow gives you a lot of teleportation or illusion-based hiding abilities, meaning that it's a very much kind of like Shadow-esque rogue style, which is really, really cool. Sparkling Targe is the shield-based one, which it focuses on use of an actual shield, and honestly is better used with an actual shield, as many of the feats work better with an actual shield, but it also gives benefits when using the shield cantrip, and when you're in Arcane Cascade, the bonuses your shield give you to your AC also apply to your saves, especially those against magic effects, making the Sparkling Targe really good if you want to play a Stalwart Defender style of Magus. Starlit Span is the ranged variant of Magus. It allows you to spell strike at a distance, unlike any of the other Hybrid Studies does. And its Arcane Cascade, well, just allows you to do that. As long as it's a ranged attack, you can spell strike with it. So pretty simple, but it's a very strong defining class style nonetheless, as it very much changes how you look at combat. And last but not least is Twisting Tree, which is actually a very interesting one, as it focuses on using staves as a staff weapon, and you can do all kinds of things. Mixing in acrobatics, you can extend it power pole style, and do all kinds of like trip maneuvers. It's a really good one, and not only that, but it blends in the use of using a spell stave as a weapon. So you can actually both wield a stave and a staff at the same time, which is really good and very powerful, especially with many of the feats that go with the Twisting Tree specifically. Along with the Hybrid Studies, you get a special list of spells called Studious Spells, which are general spells that you cannot spell strike with. The Magus has a limited spell list, only ever getting at most 4 spell slots that they can spell strike with, doubling it when they get double spell strike, but that's at level 19, which is a little far along. And their Studious Spells, which are 2 spell slots they get that are at max level 4, and they're mostly used for buffing, as the whole point of the Magus is that you're buffing yourself while you're fighting and dealing with stuff in combat. And as well, it just makes it so that the Magus isn't completely focused on only spell strikes, they are doing other things as well. And that's actually going to lead into the first of my tips, which is it's all about managing your actions. You are a very action intensive class because spell strike is 2 actions. Recharging your spell strike is an action by itself, though you can use a conflict spell, which I'll mention in a second, to restore your spell strike. And then Arcane Cascade is yet another action. The important thing to remember are spell strikes are more damage than multiple strikes from other characters. So much more that even if you take a round just doing a simple strike and then a spell strike every other round, your DPR is still going to look just as good as most other classes, which is probably one of the reasons why you're picking a spell striker in the first place. In any regard, don't get bogged down by spell striking every round. You have the flexibility because when you do spell strike, it does a ton of damage. And conflict spells, my other tip, they're your best friend. A conflict spell, it comes with your Hybrid Studies, and pretty much any focus spell a Magus gets is a conflict spell, and they're typically 1 action, and when you use them, you automatically recharge your spell strike as well. So you can spell strike and then conflict spell, which like Thunderous Strike, which is the Inexorable Iron one, which gives you a wave attack. Then you're ready to go with another spell strike on your next turn. You just make sure you're positioned well, and also look for the ability to get like haste or anything that can give you more action economy, as you're very much going to need it as a Magus. But that's going to be it. Hopefully this video is not much more than 10 minutes. There was a lot to talk about here. Let me know if you liked this video down below, if it helped you with Magus in any way. And as well, sub while you're looking down there, as it really helps the channel out. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.